The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And we have an interloper today on the show. It's Happy New Year. I hope everybody survived the new year in good health. And so we start off the first show of 22 with all kinds of bombshells to throw here, right? So is today the day of the inauguration?
Today is the day of the inauguration at 4 o'clock.
And the coronation.
Yeah, the coronation. And here, you know what? Paul's not going to get caught with his pants down today.
Why, did he staple them?
He brined the streets. He prepped the streets for the snow.
Oh, well, of course, because it's his coronation.
It's his coronation. He wants to be sure everyone can get there.
You want to make sure everybody gets there, but we're going to cancel the oyster dinner because we don't want to see all the rich and nauseous eating, stuffing their faces with oysters and caviar.
The question is, do we going to have snow?
Well, they're saying we might get a dusting or something like. Who cares?
They said maybe
look,
up to an inch.
Big doings. This is going to be it's going to be quite the 2 years, I think, we're going to be facing here.
Well, and it's looking pretty good that Pam La Liberté is going to be the president, and Michelle Dionne is going to be the vice president.
Well, that will be a historic. Two women leading the city council, which is a good thing. But I think that we're going to have issues with the obviously with inflation, with the burden that's been put on the people, the average people in Fall River. I'll qualify that by saying average people of Fall River, not the rich and nauseous that our mayor hangs around with, the bankers and the lawyer friends and the developers and things like that. But people are having a problem. Gas is going to continue to go up. Heating bills, it's getting cold now. The heating bills are going to be up. It's going to be hard for people to make any kind of ends meet, and there's going to be a relentless attack on their pocketbook from the city of Fall River now with this man.
I got the relentless attack when I opened my tax bill.
Yeah.
My property value went up almost $100,000.
Wow.
Don't ask me how.
That's because you live there.
That's right.
So, but
How was the contract with the cable going? Because my bill went up at $14. I posted, let's all get together and return those boxes.
They still haven't got a contract yet. They're still working on it.
Well, how long have they been talking about having some competition in cable in this city? Only about 30 years or 40 years.
The problem with that is that nobody wants to invest in the infrastructure.
Yeah.
But Paul's got ARPA money, and he could invest in the infrastructure to add another company to provide high-speed internet service. And by virtue of providing that, they'll also provide the cable. Yeah. I don't know why he doesn't do that.
Well, I know that Fall River's got an issue. We can't have FiOS here because of the way the cables are run.
Right.
So, because a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, is an engineer for this area, all of Rhode Island and Massachusetts. And we'll never get FiOS because it'll cost billions of dollars because of the way they can't run FiOS in this city. So, again, we're victimized by the city. But listen, I'm looking at dire consequences for everybody in the city of Fall River. This guy doesn't care at all. And before we get into this, and we're going to get into it, so we got plenty of time to deal with it. But I want to remind people, we're getting a swearing-in ceremony, but that means there's an election in 2 years, and we have to organize. We have to organize the tenants. We have to organize the regular people of Fall River. We have to organize the owner-occupied landlords because we're gonna get murdered. More jobs, more pay raises for everybody. Everybody gets paid like Newton that gets put on by this mayor, and the rest of the city is going to be in dire straits. And the only way to beat this is organization. And the reason I said this is because I found out a very interesting fact. You know, de Blasio is considered the worst mayor in the history of the world and the worst mayor in the history of New York. And everybody, I always wondered, how can a guy that bad get a second term? And I found out. Do you know what the turnout in New York City was the second time de Blasio ran? 8.5%.
That's how he got it.
And when they talked about that, they said, you see, when you don't go out and vote, you get the government you deserve. And this guy destroyed the city. And look at the turnout we had in this election. Yep. Look at the lack of participation. So we're going to start the new year by saying that the Citizens Alliance for Accountability of Government will be organizing people for the next year and a half to get to the polls in 2 years.
And remember,
so pay attention, politicians. We're coming for you.
And remember what happens next year.
Yeah.
This year, the mayor has to appoint the Charter Review Committee.
That's right.
Okay, and then next September and November, I should say next November, we're supposed to vote on it.
Yep.
Now, how much you want to make a bet that the mayor's lackeys turn around and make sure that that charter doesn't get changed too much, so the mayor can keep all the alleged power he has.
And his successor, who they've already handpicked by his puppeteers. But be aware that they will be coming after you in 2 years. We're going to do everything we can to get the people out. And remember, you're not successful too often, but when you start attacking the pocketbook, people show up.
Yep.
And I think the next mayor, we need to look for a mayor that's between the people, not the one that just show up in the picture, promise everything and anything, and gets elected, and then serves 2 years, gets recalled, and disappears. So I mean, and you mentioned this more than once, that one good mayor we had only had the high school diploma.
Yes.
So why are we looking for a PhD mayor when somebody, a common person that it's involved in the community, that cares about the community, that's been helping the community for years, never gets a dollar pay for it? So this person, it's out there, you know? We just need to look for it.
Well, what we need
Chip
to do.
Camara.
What we need.
You got my second.
What we need to do is we need to elect someone who serves the people, regardless. I don't care if they got a PhD or they got a high school diploma or a GED. It doesn't matter. This city has to go back to the old times where if you didn't do your job for the people, you were gone. And the reality is, if you want to go back in the archives and Google some of Theodore Roosevelt's speeches, he gave a very good speech one time about the fall of the Roman Empire. And he said the reason that the Roman Empire fell was because the Roman citizens basically were too busy having orgies and watching people get eaten by lions, and they stopped voting. When you don't hold your politicians accountable, they run amok. And if they don't serve you, Fall River has to get back to the old days. I remember, and CJ remembers, a time where if you raised taxes 2 years in a row, you were gone. You were absolutely gone. They'd wipe you out. You were done. And if you were on a council and you supported those things, you were gone. And now they go in and they tell you, like they talked about vaccines and everything else. It's like, oh, you got to get a tax increase every year. That's just the way it is. No, it isn't. Our government is not a profit-making organization, because it's a profit-making organization for the people who run it, not for the people who they're supposed to serve. This is not, we don't create a product here. The government is here to serve us, to give us our essential services. And we have to make sure that we get people in there who are serving us, not serving themselves and all their friends. And if we don't, we're going to be in receivership, and then everybody's going to be sorry because they're going to just gut the city.
That's
and
it.
while we're on that, let's talk about, we talked about Carlos is here, the mayor of the Flint, and
Well,
we talked on the last show about the mayor's illustrious plan to just, he's got a plan for everything. He's going to get his big money developers in here, and it's going to change the Flint into Oz.
So here's a plant that I never saw. I never heard about it. I don't know anything about it. And believe me, I have proofs that I'm a part of the Flint for 30 years. Matter of fact, I just grabbed, I was going through March 95 when they were talking about, that's the minute of the meeting when they were talking about stopping the meters on Pleasant Street. So I have minutes of meetings going way back. So this was part of the economic development because we know how much a meter can hurt business. And today, because of money, they're trying to get the meters back on Pleasant Street, which I know it's going to be a big fight. So economic development for Pleasant Street, I see is the mayor bringing the owners of those business that needs to be, the buildings that needs to be rehab to be rented. That's, I think, the first thing that I want to see on that development. I heard that he just want to invite investors to buy the buildings to turn into residence areas. Well, we have plenty of high-rises on the Flint. We have a lot of mills that have 200, 300 apartments just on that area. What we don't have is the business, because all those residents could just walk into Pleasant Street, and that was the idea of putting people 65 and older on that area, is because it's so easy to access to all kinds of business on Pleasant Street. And we are just going around and around in circles just to try to get those business open and rented again.
That must be the merry-go-round that brings 1 million people here every year, right?
Yeah. The Derby horses. The Derby horses. Yeah.
You know, so I think that we need to bring those owners back, get into an agreement with them, because we understand that they don't have the money to rehab those buildings. We need to get into a contract with them that the city is going to allow them to fix it. Right now, they cannot get permits because they're behind on tax. So if you're behind on tax, the city don't give you permits to fix the building. So this is like a domino puzzle.
Well, it's a catch-22, Carlos, but the problem is, and we talked about it on the last show, I believe, the problem we have here is, listen, there's not a developer in the world that's going to fix the city of Fall River. What they're going to come in is they're going to make a ton of money, and then they're going to take all their money and leave, because they don't care if the Flint ultimately fails. Look what happened to Purchase Street. We put a ton of lipstick on that pig, and Purchase Street is still Purchase Street. You don't see a whole bunch of thousands of people flocking down to Purchase Street because those places have got new fronts on them. These developers that come in don't live in Fall River. The only way you're ever going to revitalize the Flint or Fall River is when you focus not only on the buildings, but on getting people jobs, creating, teaching people how to weld or do something like that. Remember, I walked Pleasant Street as a child when every single store was occupied, and there were literally hundreds of people there every day on the weekend. And you know why? Because guess what?
This is the list back then.
That's right.
It's all business that had on Pleasant Street.
Well, I remember six restaurants between Stafford Square and Bogle Hill. 6 restaurants that were fully operational and making money. You know why? Because in those days, everybody had a job. It wasn't a great job, but they all had money. And they all went out to eat on Friday, and they all went up shopping on Pleasant Street, and they went shopping on South Main Street, and those places were built. Why? Cities do not prosper because developers come in. Cities only prosper when people have jobs. Miami is a great example of that, and we used it. Miami is one of the #1 tourist destinations in the world. It's one of the biggest crap holes in the country to live in because people don't have good jobs. There's a lot of ghettos there. There's a lot of crime in Miami. But if you go to South Beach, it's a wonderful place to visit, but a terrible place to live. The bottom line is these clowns are going to come in like they do all over. Look what happened. How many times do you think they've tried to redevelop Lowell and Lawrence and Fall River? We put all kinds of paint and labels on these cities. Gateway City, that's going to fix the problem. Developer, market rate housing.
But
How long have we been hearing market rate housing? 10 years? 15
But
years?
developers love Fall River because they got tips and they got the sidewalks
right.
before they have the windows on the building.
Exactly. And the problem is that you have to look at this city from the perspective of somebody who really wants to care. Not a mayor who moved back into the city to become a politician, is here for a short term, and when he's gone, he's going to move back out. Because I'm going to tell you, you don't move to Somerset, move into Fall River, and buy a tiny little house that you're going to live in for the rest of your life when you're making the kind of money he is, and you're hooked up with the kind of people he is. I will guarantee you he's moving out of Fall River when he's not the mayor anymore. So these are the kind of people you can't put into the 6th floor. Because he came from a department where everybody gets a job because they know somebody. And now he's turning that on the city side. So this has become not a city that's trying to help the people who need a trade, who need to get a job, who are working on partnerships with businesses to get people jobs, to try to work with the businesses and the people. No, this has become an employment agency for political hacks. And this is the problem. And as long as the citizens of Fall River stay in their house and say, there's nothing I can do about this, it's going to stay this way. When they rise up and throw all these bums out and put people in who will pay attention to them like they used to in the old days. But what happened? All those people moved to Somerset, Swansea. And CJ remembers, maybe you weren't here yet, but the fact is, I remember in Fall River that a mayor they were absolutely petrified to raise taxes, especially in an election year, because they were gone.
Carlton Viveris would never want to...
Ever. And we had extra money, and we had people working. But this is what happens. Now this city is all about two classes. The haves and the have-nots. The rich, the developers, they're coming in. How many developers are going to move into Fall River? They're going to build all kind of market rate housing. Any of them going to move to Fall River? Where do all these multi-million-dollar people that we were talking about on one of our shows that are coming all over to the Cape and the South Coast? Where do they live? They don't live in Fall River. They don't live in Lawrence. They don't live in Lowell.
I think the closest one that we have that's developing something lives in Westport or Dartmouth. That's one developer that lives in Westport or Dartmouth that's redeveloping something downtown. So, I mean, obviously not Fall River. I mean, it's close, but no cigar. And that person posts a lot of pictures of being on the boat in Florida and lots, kicking back. And
well, they may have a house in Fall River, and some of these people do that have got a lot of money. Some of them got a house, but they all got houses in the Cape. They got houses in Florida. They take pictures playing opera music to their dogs, and we know who that is. and, at the pool in their Florida estate. So, they are Fall River residents in name only. Look, what we need are city councilors who understand what's going to happen to Fall River when you give out all these jobs, all these pay raises, and pretend that you're doing something great for Fall River, because we can go back to the carousel and the millions of tourists that we were going to get for the carousel and the HMS Bounty. That baby sunk.
it truly did sink.
Yeah, that baby sunk. So everything they do is the definition of insanity. We have been listening to Kenny Fiola for 40 years.
Well,
and how good has he done? If you hired a guy and he's been working for you for 40 years, and his city is worse off 40 years later,
time to get somebody new.
Would he still have 6 jobs?
Not that I know of.
Here's something they campaign every year. Dates December 5th, 1997. That letter.
And I will read it. I will read the head. Fall River Office of Mayor Lambert launches storefront improvement program. Whoa! I think I've heard this.
Every 2 years you
I
hear.
hear an echo.
Yeah.
Every 2 years. And I have to say it, not one store got on this program.
Yep.
And they campaign on this every 2 years. Every campaign season, they talk about this. The same thing. This ladder goes, just turned 20, 25 years or so.
Yeah, 25
and they're
years.
still campaigning about this. One storefront got fixed out of this program that I know.
And how much money did they get for it?
Azores Restaurant on the Globe Four Corners. It's the only, so far, that I know in 25 years.
And that wasn't even in the Flint.
It was not even on the Flint. And this was sold during a meeting and back, you see, it's December 5th.
Oh, you got a lot of
1997.
paper. I see a lot of newspapers
I have files.
Let me peek.
I have files and files, and this was the proof that the majority of the papers I have was accomplished that we did as an association versus campaign papers every time that they go and they promise to do something.
You mean you did work? You mean you did work?
So, but the funny thing is they keep campaigning the same thing. It's a failure. It's a failure. It's been a failure since the beginning. They're still campaigning about. They're still getting elected with the same lie. Okay, and nothing is getting done.
Oh, there is something getting done, Carlos. I have to. They've added new rich people to the. We still see some of the same old rich people making money, but now they bring in some new rich people now to throw into the pot for them. And it's not a mistake that all congressmen end up millionaires and senators who go to Washington. It's the same thing in Fall River. It's amazing how people they become extremely well-to-do, get very well connected, and when they leave, they get jobs. You know, look at, you just talked about Ed Lambert. Look at Ed Lambert. Ed Lambert was the mayor for a while, and what's he making? 400 grand now?
Yep.
400 grand. He's
He's
working
still
for the
involved
state.
in Fall River?
He's in the education now. He's in the state education system
Well,
now.
I never see him in the cleanup or you know. Or keeping-
I don't believe he lives in Fall River anymore.
He doesn't live in Fall River.
No.
I believe he lives in Dartmouth now, I think. You know, he's gone. You know, they all leave.
They all leave.
You know, and the problem is that the only people that stay are the people who are getting downtrodden. And like I said, it's you know, they are what they are. Politicians are, you know, whether it's Brandon saying that I'm gonna fix COVID, then say, wait a minute, it's a state problem. I'm gonna give out these things, but then I don't order them. The thing is that they make promises, but it's up to us to make them keep those promises or get rid of them. If we do not go to the polls as a group, if we don't organize people, we continue to allow them to separate us like they did with Fall River and New Bedford in the districting.
Well,
they will not allow us to unite, so we have to unite ourselves.
My message for the mayor is you don't have to call me. You don't have to contact me. More than once, I know people has been on the meetings with him, and people have been telling him, you need to call Carlos. Carlos has this information, but they keep inventing the wheel, okay? And we got $1 million aside from Senator Rodriguez to invest on Pleasant Street, and I bet you anything they're going to spend that money just trying to figure out what they're going to do.
Make a plan.
To make a plan. That's $1 million to make a plan. When the plans are already done, okay, for years. So you don't have to contact me, you don't have to call me, you don't have to even to say my name, just do the job. And to do the job, it's a lot to be done, and selling the buildings, it's not the answer for economic development. We are putting a committee together. We already had a couple of meetings for economic development for Pleasant Street, which you were part of one of the meetings. So we've been doing that. We're going to pick up that now this year, 2022, because last year we could. So we are doing our homework. We know what we needs to be done. We don't have to invent the wheel. If you want to lose money, if you want to lose time, just go in circles and trying to invent the wheel. It's up to you. I just hope that this time that Pleasant Street gets somewhere.
Well, boy, you are a cockeyed optimist. Welcome to 2022. You're a cockeyed optimist. Listen, you said they don't invite you to meetings. You don't need to be at a meeting because, see, the problem is you care about what happens to the people of the city of Florida and the people of the Flint. Those developers don't care about anything except their bottom line and making money. And that therein lies the problem. We've had developers come and go, but the thing is, the common denominator are politicians and the Office of Economic Development, and we've seen Fall River not get any better with all the plans. We can go back to the carousel, the HMS Bounty, this, that, the other thing. If we start pulling plans and how many things they quote unquote brought to Fall River that was going to save Fall River, this should be Newton on steroids. Yep. Fall River should be Newton on steroids, and it's not. The bottom line is because they do not really care. The bottom line is these communities, small cities, survive on small businesses and people that are working. That's the only way. If you get a big city, they can survive by having the headquarters of everything here, paying big rents and all that stuff. Boston's, the Cambridges, they can survive on a lot of other ancillary businesses. But small communities survive when their people are working and small businesses are thriving. Well, and that's the problem. These developers do not care about small businesses. They care about market rate housing, making money, and then they're going to bail. They're going to bail with their profit, and they're going to go back to their summer house and winter house and fall house and spring house. Mm-hmm. So that's the problem.
One of the interesting things is we hear it all the time, and it's always economic development, economic development, economic development. And we always hear Ken Fiola's name associated with it. Well, as a matter of fact, this month, I believe CDA is accepting comments on who should get the money and who shouldn't get the money. Maybe you organize a group of people to write letters to say, he's been doing this for 40 years and we haven't seen anything. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's time that we look at a new company, a new person to do this job.
Economic development. See, that's the problem. You have two definitions of it. Their definition of economic development is bringing businesses into Fall River that are going to make money from off Fall River. And they never say Fall River. Look at Amazon, one of the largest employers in the world. How many people are working at Amazon? We have a workforce that's untrained and unqualified. The problem is you have to attack the fact that, look what they did in Rhode Island. They trained people how to weld. They got them jobs at Electric Boat. These things are not, Germany's been using it for 50 years. You look at business partnerships, for apprenticeship programs. They're not mysteries, but they don't care. Years ago we had the mills. You didn't need a lot of education to work in the mills, but people had a job and they had a paycheck. People that are not working, a city can never thrive when people don't have any money. No small business can stay in business if people don't have money to spend in those small businesses. These developers are there to make a quick buck, and if they make it, they make it, and if they don't, they're gone again, and they take their profit and run to another location. This is all, look, this isn't an opinion. We got 40 years of history here. And this city is worse off than it was 40 years ago. And if you can't see that, you got your head up your derriere.
Well, Carlos, I hope we're running out of time. I hope that you bring this up on your show.
Mm-hmm. I definitely will.
Table topics, because I think this is important. And I think it's very important that the mayor realize how important this is. And, Ken Fiola should realize how important this is, because if the people unite and send letters to Mike Dion about, I don't want Ken Fiola anymore, I want somebody who's going to do the job and who's going to make a difference, maybe that will happen. But, again, cockeyed optimism. That's going to be the motto for 2022.
Well, I have to thank you guys for the opportunity to come on your show that I know that has a lot of people listening to, and to just give my view, again, about the Flint.
Well, we want to thank you for all the work you've done for so many years for the real people of the Flint.
That's right.
Not the politicians, but for the people who live in the Flint and for the businesses in the city. You have done you are a great representative of the people.
I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you for allowing us into your home. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thank you.